The alarms screamed through the shattered halls of the research tower. "Get down!" someone shouted as the upper platform collapsed, sending glowing shards of crystal raining like deadly snow. General dove behind a broken support beam, her silver armor cracked, smoke rising from her left arm. She gritted her teeth, refusing to fall, did not kneel. They did not panic. They did not rely on outsiders. Especially not on humans. But as the dust rolled through the corridor, she heard heavy footsteps, the unmistakable sound of human boots thudding on metal. A familiar voice shouted, "Where are you?" She froze for a breath for two. No, not him, anyone but him. "Commander Hale," she muttered under her breath, fighting the odd twist in her chest. "Why did it have to be you?" A beam of light cut through the smoke. A moment later, the tall human stepped into view, helmet cracked, face smeared with ash, eyes burning with determination. He looked like he had fought his way through fire just to reach her. And maybe he really had. Hale reached her side, dropping to one knee. "You're injured." "It's nothing," she lied, even as blood trickled down her arm. A massive explosion shook the tower again. The floor trembled beneath them, threatening to give way. Hale grabbed her hand without hesitation. "Come with me, the whole structure is unstable." She tried to pull away. "I don't need you." But his grip tightened, not forceful, just steady, warm, unshakably human. "Maybe not," he said, "but you're getting out of here with me anyway." For a moment her breath caught. That simple human stubbornness, the thing she told herself she despised, was the very thing keeping her alive. 1 hour earlier. General had never feared silence, but today it felt heavy. Too heavy. Her people were dying. Their border defenses shattered. The enemy, an ancient machine race known as the, was moving toward the faster than their generals could respond. And the only person who claimed to know how to stop them was a human. Commander Hale had arrived with a plan, reckless, dangerous, and very human, but hated how her heart reacted each time he looked at her, how her composure cracked just a little. She was royalty, a warrior bred for duty. Emotions were distractions. "Your idea is foolish," she had said earlier, packing the command chamber. "Injecting a disruption signal directly into a memory root, the chances of survival are low," Hale interrupted calmly, "but not zero." She glared at him. Humans always gambled with their lives as if they were small coins. "You don't understand," she said quietly. "If you fail my people, we'll die if we do nothing," Hale finished. "So let me try." There it was, that stubborn fire again, the thing that made humans so terrifying and so impossible to ignore. And she hated that a small part of her wanted to trust him. She hated even more that she already did. Back in the collapsing tower, the floor cracked beneath their feet, dropping an entire section into the abyss below. Hale pulled her back just in time, his arm wrapping around her waist to steady her. She could feel his heartbeat, fast, strong, human. Her cheeks warmed, ridiculous not now. "Hale," she swallowed hard, "you should have left with your own team." "They needed me alive," he said. "And you," he hesitated, looking at her with something she didn't want to name. "You need someone who won't give up on you." Her chest tightened painfully. She didn't want this. She didn't want him to be the one she relied on. But the building above them groaned like a dying beast. Broken beams sparked with electrical fire, and as much as she tried to deny it, she could barely stand on her own. Hale lifted her arm over his shoulder. "I'm getting you out." "You're reckless," she whispered. "And you're heavy," he said with a faint grin. She blinked, then despite everything, almost smiled. Almost. Another explosion roared through the tower. The heat hit them like a wave. Hale didn't hesitate. He carried her forward into the burning hallway. And for the first time in her life, let someone else protect her, even if it broke every shield she had built around her heart. Fire curled along the ceiling as Hale dragged through the broken corridor. The heat made the air shimmer, turning the shadows into moving shapes. Sparks rained down like angry fireflies. Hale said through clenched teeth, Put me down, I can walk. You can barely breathe, he shot back. Your armor's ruptured and your left arm's numb. You don't know that. I do, he said. You're gripping my shoulder like you're trying not to pass out. She scowled. He was right, and that annoyed her more than the pain. Humans were not supposed to read her so easily. Her people were elegant, graceful, controlled. Humans were messy, loud, emotional. Yet Hale understood her in ways her own generals never had. That alone made her uneasy. A chunk of ceiling fell behind them with a deafening crash. Hale didn't look back. He simply tightened his grip and pushed forward. You shouldn't have come alone, said, her voice softer now. Your squad, they needed you. They're holding the entrance, he answered. I told them I'd get you. She stared at him. Why? Because we need you alive. That wasn't the answer she expected. Humans always had layers, always hiding something behind a half-smile. But before she could ask more, the corridor split open ahead, revealing a massive chamber filled with swirling violet light. Energy sparked between the broken core pylons, twisting like lightning caught in a cage. The memory root. It pulsed with a cold, metallic glow, alive and calculating, like an artificial heart beating on the floor of the universe. Felt her breath stop. It's spreading faster than we predicted. Yeah, Hale said, which means I have even less time. He helped her down gently. She winced as her legs shook but forced herself to stand straight. She hated weakness, hated letting him see her struggle. Hale pulled a small device from his belt, a spike of silver nanotech glowing with faint blue runes. The disruption key, she whispered, if you activate it too close. I know. It will kill you, Hale. He smiled in that infuriating human way, like pain was just another obstacle to run through. Only if I hesitate. Felt something cold form in her stomach. You cannot be the one to do this. My people will. Your people already tried, Hale said gently. And they died. I'm not saying that to hurt you. I'm saying it because I've seen the bodies out there. Her breath hitched. Her soldiers, her family, she had lost more today than she could bear. Hale stepped closer, lowering his voice. Your world matters, your people matter, and I know you think you have to carry everything alone, but you don't. She looked away sharply, as if his words were a blade digging too deep. Stop speaking as if you know my heart. I don't, he said softly, but I know what it looks like when someone is breaking. Her hands trembled. She curled them into fists to hide it. Hale reached out, slowly, carefully, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. He touched her shoulder, light, grounding, warm. Let me help. Her chest tightened painfully. She hated how much she wanted to lean on him. She hated the fear that rose at the thought of him walking into the chamber alone. Hale, she whispered, if you die this mission still fails, I cannot lose you too. The words slipped out before she could stop them. Hale's eyes widened, not in arrogance but in something softer, something she didn't want to name. Oh, he began. But he didn't get to finish. The chamber's violet energy surged outward, roaring like a storm. A wave of force slammed into them both, knocking them back. Metal groaned, the earth shook. The root was awakening. Hale pushed himself up, coughing. No more time, I'm ending this. He ran toward the core. Hale, stop, tried to rise but fell to one knee, her vision blurred. He didn't look back this time. He just shouted, hold on, I'll be back. She reached out blindly toward him, her voice cracking. Don't. But he was already swallowed by the violet light. Felt something inside her snap. She had fought her feelings for so long. Now she feared she would lose the very person she never wanted to need. The violet light swallowed Hale as he ran into the core chamber. For a moment, could only watch the glow wrap around him like living fire. The root hummed with cold intelligence, its energy crackling through the air. Pushed herself upright, her breath ragged. Pain stabbed through her shoulder, but she ignored it. She took one step, then another, until she reached the broken railing overlooking the chamber. Hale, she shouted, voice echoing through the vast metallic hall. He didn't stop. He moved with purpose, dodging unstable beams of energy that lashed across the room. His body looked impossibly small against the towering structure of alien machinery. Her chest tightened. Humans were fragile compared to, they broke too easily, bled too quickly, died too fast. And still he kept running. "Why are you doing this?" she whispered into the empty air as if he could somehow hear her. "Why for me?" Deep below, Hale leaped over a collapsing platform and landed hard, but he pushed himself back up without hesitation. His determination felt like its own kind of weapon, raw, stubborn, fiercely human. He reached the base of the memory root, a tall crystalline column humming with dark power. Its core pulsed like a beating heart made of electric storms. Hale pulled out the disruption key. Felt her stomach twist. "Wait, you need a stabilizing field." He lifted his hand, signaling he heard her, but he didn't slow. "Of course you don't listen," she murmured, anger and fear mixing. "Always rushing ahead, always risking yourself." A sudden burst of energy tore through the chamber, backed away as sparks exploded around her. Hale staggered under the force, shielding his face with his arm. Still, he kept going. If anyone else had attempted this mission, would have accepted their sacrifice as the cost of war. But when Hale moved toward the heart of the machine, every instinct she had screamed for him to stop. She didn't know when her heart had started reacting this way. Perhaps on the battlefield months ago when he stood between her and a hunter, or when he challenged her counsel without fear, or when she realized he saw her not as a general or a royal, but as a person. A person worth saving. Another shockwave hit. Hale dropped to one knee. The device in his hand flickered. Hale shouted again. He pushed himself up, breathing hard. "I'm still here." The core roared with energy, reacting to his presence like a wounded beast. Tendrils of light curled around him, trying to drag him closer, trying to absorb him. Gripped the railing so hard her claws dug into the metal. "Don't you dare let it take you." "For once," Hale shouted over the storm, "we agree." Despite the danger, despite the agony clawing at her ribs, felt something like a laugh threatened to escape her. Even at the edge of death, he joked. Even while facing a machine that had ended entire civilizations, he stayed human. He reached the connection point at last, a swirling nexus of power deep inside the core. Felt her throat close. This was it. He had to place the disruption key into the central slot and activate it manually. That would release a shock pulse strong enough to break the network, but the blast would also tear through anything nearby. Hale whispered, trembling, "Come back, please." He looked up at her. Even from across the vast chamber, she could see the softness in his expression. "We'll talk about that," he said, smirking just a little, "after I save your stubborn life." He pushed the device into the slot. The chamber erupted in screaming light. A violent wave slammed into the walls, shielded her face as shards of energy tore through the air. "Hale," she cried, panic ripping through her voice. But for several long seconds, she couldn't see him, only the blinding violet flare of the disruption sequence. "No," she stumbled forward, heart racing. "No, no, no." The energy pulse reached its peak, then exploded outward in a shock that shook the entire tower. Metal screamed, platforms cracked, the core dimmed. And as the light faded, saw a silhouette collapse to the ground. Her breath stopped. It was Hale. Motionless. Screamed, her voice breaking for the first time in years. "Answer me." But he didn't move. And the walls she had built around her heart finally shattered. Dust drifted through the air like falling ash as the last echoes of the explosion faded. Stood frozen at the edge of the shattered platform, staring down at Hale's unmoving form. She whispered, her voice barely a breath. He lay on the metal floor beneath the core, surrounded by the dim, dying glow of the root. His body was twisted slightly, one arm limp, his helmet cracked open. No rise and fall of breath, no movement. Her heart clenched painfully. "No," she said, stepping back before forcing herself forward again. "Not like this, not you, not now." Her legs shook as she moved, but she didn't stop. Pain ripped through her shoulder, yet she stumbled down the broken ramp anyway. She slipped once, caught herself, then continued until she reached him. She dropped to her knees beside him. "Hale," she said, voice trembling. I told you not to do something reckless." He didn't answer. Pressed her hand to his cheek. His skin was warm enough that hope sparked inside her. "Wake up," she whispered. "You hear me? That's an order." Still nothing. Her throat tightened and she felt a sting behind her eyes, an unfamiliar heat. Did not weep. They were taught from birth that tears were weakness. But she wasn't a general right now. She wasn't a princess. She was just a woman kneeling beside someone she couldn't lose. As she whispered, "You promised you would come back." Her hand trembled as she touched his chest, the steady rhythm she prayed to feel. Then, a faint cough escaped his lips. Froze. Hale groaned softly, his hand twitching. Relief hit her like a wave. She didn't even realize she had leaned forward until her forehead touched his shoulder. "You idiot," she breathed. "You reckless, stubborn idiot." Hale blinked weakly. If you're calling me names, I guess I'm alive." She jerked back, wiping her face quickly even though she knew he had already seen. "You scared me," she snapped. He smiled faintly. "Would been ashamed to die without hearing you admit that." Glared at him, but her voice softened. "Do not push your luck." He tried to sit up, but winced in pain. She caught him immediately, moving closer to support him. "Easy," she said. "You took the full blast of the disruption pulse." Hale managed a breath, but it worked, right? Looked toward the core. The violent light was gone, the humming had faded. The memory root lay silent and lifeless. "It worked," she said quietly. "You saved my people." Hale closed his eyes for a moment. "Good, good, now help me stand." "You need medical attention." "Just help me up," he insisted. She sighed but slid her arm under his shoulders. He leaned heavily against her as she helped him rise. For a moment, he rested his forehead against her temple, trying to steady himself. Felt her heart thump unevenly. She murmured, "Why would you risk your life like that? You could have died." "For you," he whispered without hesitation. Her breath caught. He continued, voice rough but honest. "I didn't want to, I didn't plan to, but when I saw you hurt, when I realized what losing you would mean, I had to do it." She closed her eyes. His words felt like small impacts on her chest, cracking something open inside her. "You should not say things like that," she whispered. "You confuse me." "I'm confused too," he said softly. "But I know one thing, when you called my name, I heard fear, real fear, and that means something." She turned her face away. "Do not assume." "Then tell me I'm wrong." His voice was calm, not challenging, just waiting. Opened her mouth, trying to find the strength to deny it. She couldn't. The truth sat heavy in her chest, painful and undeniable. "You are not wrong," she said finally, voice thin. Hale blinked in surprise, not because he hadn't hoped for those words, but because he knew how difficult they were for her to speak. Before he could respond, the entire tower trembled violently again. A deep rumble echoed through the walls. "Stiffened, the structure is collapsing." Hale tightened his grip on her arm. "Then let's move." She supported him as they limped toward the exit, smoke curling around them. But as they reached the first broken stairway, stopped, not because of the pain, but because of the realization burning inside her. She no longer feared the machines outside. She feared losing the human beside her. And there was no fight more terrifying than that. Guided Hale up the shaking stairway, each step groaning under the weight of destruction. Smoke rose through cracks in the floors, and the once smooth walls of the tower leaned like dying giants. "Hale, stay close," she said, tightening her grip on his arm. "Not planning to wander off," he muttered. "Hurts too much to even think about it." Despite the fear squeezing her chest, she almost smiled. Almost. As they climbed, another explosion thundered above them. Dust rained down, and Hale instinctively pulled toward the inner wall to shield her. She frowned. "Stop doing that." Doing what? Acting like my protector. You are injured, he said plainly. So are you. He shrugged weakly. Mine's less important. She turned her head away, because if she looked at him now, she would say something she wasn't ready to say. They reached the upper level at last. A gaping hole in the wall showed the outside battlefield. Froze. The city below was covered in smoke. The sky was filled with streaks of fire as drones spiraled out of control. Some fell like burning meteors, others exploded midair. Her heart sank. The forces, they are attacking the capital. Hale leaned against the wall for support. I thought the disruption would shut down their network. It did, said, but their war forms are autonomous for several minutes. They continue until they receive new orders. So we need to stop them manually, Hale said. She raised an eyebrow. You can barely stand. Standing is overrated, he answered, trying and failing to hide the wince. Took a slow breath. The wind carried the distant screams of citizens, the crash of buildings falling. Duty screamed inside her. Her people needed her. The war was still alive. Lives were still burning. Yet a different voice whispered in her heart, soft but fierce. Stay with him. Don't let him fall behind. The battle outside was nothing compared to the war inside her chest. Hale pushed off the wall with determination. Let's get down there. Maybe your forces regrouped. She turned toward him sharply. You are in no condition to fight. And you're in no condition to carry this alone. Again that human stubbornness, again that fire. Her voice came out softer than she intended. Why do you keep risking yourself? He met her gaze, and for once he didn't smile, didn't joke. His voice was calm, honest, bare. Because when you looked at me down there, I saw something worth risking everything for. Her breath caught, but before she could answer, a shadow fell across the broken corridor. A massive war drone descended through the open wall, its circular body humming with red energy. Its metal limbs unfolded like sharp wings, glowing with heat. Shoved Hale behind her. Get back. Now. The drone scanned them with a crimson beam. Its voice crackled with synthetic distortion. General detected. Human interference recognized. Termination required. 2 arm blasters charged, glowing brighter by the second. Stood her ground. She lifted her broken spear from the rubble beside her, holding it with only one functioning arm. She knew she couldn't block the full blast, but she would not let it reach Hale. Not again. Hale tried to pull her back. Move. No. She stepped forward, placing herself between him and the drone. A surge of energy erupted from the machine. And at that exact moment, a squad of soldiers burst through a side passage, firing energy arrows at the drone. The blast struck the drone's side, sending it spinning toward the opposite wall. Exhaled shakily. Her soldiers ran toward her, shouting, "General, you survived." One of them noticed Hale leaning heavily against the rubble, his eyes narrowed. A human. Answered before Hale could speak. He saved this tower, he saved me. Her soldiers exchanged surprised glances. But before anyone could say more, another explosion shook the city. The sky flashed bright red as a massive juggernaut marched through the outer district. Stiffened, that one will destroy everything in its path. Hale stepped forward, wincing but resolute. Then let's take it down. Turned to him, her heart twisting painfully. You want to fight at my side. It's exactly where I want to be. For a moment, she couldn't breathe. She had fought against her feelings since the first day she met him. But now, surrounded by chaos, with death marching toward their home, she finally understood. This human wasn't her weakness. He was her strength. The ground rumbled like a living beast as Hale and the soldiers rushed through the broken streets. Smoke curled around the towering buildings. Crimson sparks fell from burning overhead. Civilians fled in every direction. Far ahead, the juggernaut marched forward, an enormous machine with a body like a fortress and legs that crushed stone beneath them. Its every step made the earth tremble. On its back, heavy cannons glowed with the buildup of deadly energy. Inhaled sharply. If it reaches the core district, the capital will fall. Hale steadied himself on a crumbling wall. What's the plan? You stay behind, she said without hesitation. No. She turned, face hardening. Hale, listen to me. Your body is barely holding together. He stepped closer, meeting her eyes. I'm not leaving you alone with that thing. Her heartbeat stumbled. This isn't bravery, she said softly. It is you refusing to value your life. And what about you? His voice was low, almost rough. You'd run into death without blinking. Why is your life any less important? Her breath caught. She didn't know how to answer, not without telling him everything. But she didn't get the chance. A deafening cannon blast tore through the air. The ground exploded ahead, sending a wave of debris rolling toward them. Grabbed Hale and pulled him behind a fallen pillar just before shards of stone slammed into it. Hale coughed. All right, new plan, we hit it fast. Soldiers formed a loose circle around them. General, give the order, we will follow. She rose to her full height, forcing her pain down. We strike its joints, disable its cannons, keep the machine off balance. Hale nodded. Go for the head unit. That's where the main processor is, right? She blinked. How do you know that? He shrugged. I pay attention when you talk. A warmth spread across her chest. Dangerous, distracting warmth. But she didn't have time to think about it. The juggernaut roared and fired again. A beam of searing energy blasted through a tower, cutting it in half. The building leaned, then toppled in slow motion, crashing into the street ahead. Pointed, move. They sprinted as the falling building slammed into the ground. Dust exploded outward, engulfing them in darkness. Through the cloud could hear Hale breathing hard, but steady, determined. They burst out into open light again, just meters from the juggernaut's towering legs. Lifted her spear, now. The soldiers scattered, firing energy arrows at the joints. Sparks flew, metal groaned. The juggernaut stumbled but didn't fall. It lowered its cannons toward them. Hale grabbed's wrist. Up there, the ladder rail on the side. She saw it, a maintenance pathway half destroyed, leading toward the machine's upper section. Nodded, can you climb? He smirked despite the pain. I can if you don't let go of me. She didn't answer, but she took his hand. Together, they ran toward the side of the giant machine. The metal was hot under their boots. Hale stumbled once but caught him instantly, her arm around his waist. They climbed. Halfway up, the juggernaut shook violently, nearly throwing them off. Hale slipped his foot, missing the rail. "Series," he shouted. She didn't think. She lunged, grabbing his arm with both hands. The pain in her shoulder screamed, but she held on. "I've got you," she yelled. He looked up at her, breathless. "You always do." She pulled him up with a strength she didn't know she had. Once he was stable, they continued the climb until they reached the back platform. The main processor core pulsed inside its armored shell. Hale knelt beside it. If we overload this panel, the whole system collapses. Touched his arm. You cannot take another hit, let me. No, he lifted his head. This time we do it together. Their eyes locked. And suddenly everything, the smoke, the danger, the screams, blurred into the background. Only he remained. The human she tried so hard not to care about. The human who had already broken through every wall she built. Together, she agreed in a whisper. They placed their hands on the glowing panel. Energy surged through them, violent and wild, felt electricity bite into her skin. Hale gritted his teeth, his whole body shaking. The overload sequence began. The machine shrieked. "Hale," she gasped, "we have to jump." He didn't hesitate. He grabbed her hand. Then we jump. The platform beneath them cracked open. Together, they leapt into the burning air as the juggernaut exploded behind them. A storm of fire swallowing the sky. The night was quiet, but inside the castle, every heart felt heavy. The war drums of the were silent now, but their silence brought no peace. It only meant they were preparing something worse. Stood on the balcony, the cold wind brushing her face. She looked at the sky, searching for answers, but her mind kept returning to one person. He had been gone for hours. He had walked alone into the darkness beyond the city gates, following the strange whisper that had called to him. A whisper that only he could hear. A whisper that carried the voice of fate. She hugged herself, afraid. What if he doesn't return, she thought. The idea alone made her knees weaken. Just then, a soft glow appeared on the horizon. It grew brighter and brighter until a figure stepped out of the light. His breath caught. It was him. But something was different. His eyes carried a calm, ancient strength. His steps felt heavier, like he now walked with the weight of many lifetimes. The air around him shimmered with a golden force. Ran to him. Oh, what happened? You look different. He gently took her hands. I found the truth, said softly, about who I am and what I must do. She swallowed hard. And what is that? Looked toward the dark mountains where they hid. I must be the one to end this. Only I can face their king. Shook her head fiercely. No, not alone. We fight together like always. Smiled sadly. I want nothing more than to stay by your side, but this power, it chose me, not you, not anyone else. Her eyes filled with tears. You promised me, she whispered. You promised you would not leave. And I will keep that promise, he said, touching her cheek. I will return, I swear it. Before she could speak again, a warning horn echoed across the kingdom. They were marching. The sky darkened. Thunder rolled. The world trembled. Stepped back and closed his eyes. The golden energy inside him pulsed. Watched, frozen with fear and awe, as the ground glowed beneath his feet. What are you doing? She cried. Opened his eyes. Something no human has ever done. He rose into the air, glowing like a star. His presence pushed back the darkness as if he carried the sun inside him. Warriors on the walls gasped. Even the paused in disbelief. Then lifted his hand and the golden light shot across the battlefield, splitting the darkness apart. They screamed as the light burned through their corrupted forms. The mountains cracked. The sky shook. But then something terrible happened. A monstrous shadow emerged, taller than the castle walls, its eyes like dying stars. The Shadow King had arrived. Grabbed the railing, her heart pounding. Please. The Shadow King roared, sending a wave of darkness toward. The blast hit him hard. He fell from the sky but caught himself before reaching the ground. His light flickered. No, shouted. Clenched his fists and rose again. For this world, I will not fall. His voice echoed like 1,000 humans speaking at once. The golden light burst from him, brighter, stronger, unstoppable. It clashed with the Shadow King's darkness. The battlefield shook as the two forces collided. Light against shadow. Hope against despair. Love against destruction. Screamed as he pushed the light forward with everything he had. His body cracked with energy. His strength trembled. Then, a blinding explosion filled the sky. Covered her eyes. The world turned silent. When the light faded, the Shadow King was gone. The darkness disappeared. The mountains were quiet. And was falling. Ran faster than she ever had in her life. She caught him just before he touched the ground. His body was weak, but he was alive. Open your eyes, she begged. Slowly he did. And he smiled. I told you I would return. Burst into tears and held him close. The kingdom cheered. The war was over. Peace finally returned. But didn't care about any of that. All she cared about was that was still with her. And as she helped him stand, whispered, Whatever comes next, we face it together. Nodded, smiling through her tears. Together always. And with that promise, their story, born of courage, pain, and love, became a legend that the kingdom would remember for centuries.